This is a Red FM Vancouver podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe for more great content. For further info, log on to redfm.ca.
ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ Honourable Judy Darcy ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਓਵਰਡੋਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਜਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਨੀਆਂ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਔਰ ਹਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਠੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈ ਰਹੀ। ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੇਤੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪੂਰੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਥਾਮ ਲਈ ਜਾਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਠੱਲ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨਗੇ। Honourable Judy Darcy. Minister, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
No, I'm very happy to.
So, July 2020, we saw near record high deaths of drug addiction, drug overdose. 175 people died. And what is happening? I mean, it feels like that your government is failing when it comes to this preventable deaths. These are preventable deaths, Minister.
Well, it is a horrible tragedy. And, you know, last year we had succeeded in bringing the death toll down in British Columbia for the first time since the numbers started going up. The overdose poisoning deaths had started to climb in 2012 and continued to go up every year. And last year, for the first time, we saw them go down by 36%. So we were on the right track. We were doing, as Dr. Bonnie Henry has said, many of the right things that we needed to do. And then COVID-19 hit, and it has set back so much of the work that's happened and so much of the progress that was being made. And the BC Coroner has been very clear the number one cause of these deaths is unintended consequences of COVID-19 and many of the measures brought in around COVID-19. So the drug supply has been disrupted, and and imported drugs are down. So these drugs are being mixed locally, and they are being mixed in more toxic and dangerous ways than ever before. Sometimes concentrations of fentanyl 40 times higher than normal, mixed with something called benzodiazepines. And in that combination, it means if a paramedic tries to save someone's life with naloxone, it often doesn't work. So the toxic drug supply is the number one reason. But also we know with COVID, people are self-isolating, and that means that they're also using drugs alone. And most people who die are using drugs alone because of stigma. And finally, it's because people are accessing health services and getting help less often, less going to overdose prevention sites, less going to doctors, and so on. So it's a number of factors, but the number one is the poison drug supply, which is why one of the most critical responses that we have initiated, and we did it within a couple of weeks of COVID-19 hitting, was expanding access to a safe supply of prescription medications as an alternative to the drug supply to separate people from the poison drugs on the street.
Minister, people of British Columbia are wondering that why this crisis did not garner the same attention as the COVID-19.
Well, we have been firing on all cylinders since we were, we formed government 3 years ago, and since my ministry was formed, the overdose crisis has been our number one priority, and the measures we were taking were working. The BC Centre for Disease Control estimates that 6,000 deaths were averted because of the measures that we had taken. Things like getting more people on treatment, things like massive distribution of naloxone kits. Tens of thousands of naloxone kits have been used to save people's lives, to reverse overdoses and save lives, and also the massive expansion of overdose prevention sites. But in a time when the drug supply is more poison than ever, when people are socially isolating, those things have been more challenging to access. So we are working overtime now in order to do everything we can to save lives and connect people to treatment and recovery. And it's not one magic bullet. It's not about something like washing your hands, staying 2 meters apart, right? Sneezing into your sleeve. Addiction has many complicated causes. In many cases, people's addiction is hidden. They don't share this information even with their family members, often don't know people are using. And so one of the most important things that all of us can do is to combat the stigma that is associated with drug use and reach out to people that we think may be struggling with addiction. Don't judge them. Don't criticize them. Don't blame them. Have the attitude, and it reflects truth and science. Addiction is a health issue, not a moral issue, and we need to treat it as a health issue. So we need to reach out to our family and loved ones with compassion and love and try and connect them to the support that they need rather than pushing them away and letting them know help is there, and we are providing help and support in a wide variety of ways, from access to safe prescription medications, medication treatment for addiction, to more overdose prevention sites, to counseling, including counseling in many languages, in Punjabi and Hindi, Mandarin, Cantonese. We really are expanding the culturally specific services at the same time and opening more treatment beds for adults and youth.
But I still think that the big issue is it boils down to the supply chain. What's happening at catching the big fish?
Well, we've certainly invested considerably more resources from day one in going after the big bad guys. And by that I mean the criminal element. I mean the drug importers, the organized crime, the gangs, the people who manufacture these toxic drugs that I can't emphasize too much how much more deadly they are than even what was on the street a few months ago or a year ago. So we have a huge focus on going after them. But drugs are still being manufactured subversively, illegally, within the province, in ways that are very difficult to find. And so we need to be able to, and the police chiefs have said very clearly, we need to go after the criminal element. They need to focus their efforts there. We don't want to criminalize people who are suffering from a health issue, that is an addiction. We want to find support for them, and our focus has to be to get them the support that they need, but also to encourage people, and I hope that all of your listeners take this to heart. People should not be using drugs alone. Mm-hmm. Using drugs alone will kill you. The chances are good, if not this time, the next time. It's like playing Russian roulette. These drugs are poisonous. So if you use drugs, do not use drugs alone. Have someone there with an naloxone kit. And there's also something we've developed called a lifeguard app. A very smart entrepreneur has developed an app that it's called Lifeguard. You can activate it, download it, then activate it, and at 50 seconds, if you don't respond, it will 50 seconds will sound an alarm. At 75 seconds, if the person has not turned off the alarm, it will automatically go through to 911. This is an app that has already saved lives. So, and because the people most at risk are the ones using street drugs alone, that's an important tool as well. But there are services like the Roshni Clinic that supports hundreds of people who are living with alcohol use disorder. It supports many, many people who are dealing with opioid use disorder. There are counseling services available that our government has provided funding for who provide counseling services in other languages, including Punjabi and Hindi. So there are many more services available in the community. We need to ensure that our loved ones get the support and the help that they need, rather than judging them and pushing them away and saying, oh no, this doesn't exist in my family, this doesn't exist in my community. It's the downtown east side, or it's where the Surrey Strip used to be. No. It affects all of our families.
Mm-hmm. Minister, anything you like to add in closing?
Just that we all have a role to play here. We all have a role to play, and we need to come together in the same way that we did around COVID-19, and that is supporting each other, keeping each other safe, reaching out to people with compassion and caring. We have to put exactly the same energy and the same commitment and drive as a province and as individuals in order to keep people safe from overdose and to help people get on a pathway to healing and to hope, to treatment and to recovery.
Minister, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
So much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another Red FM podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe and check out our Red FM Canada YouTube channel. For further info, log on to our Red FM social media platforms or visit redfm.ca.